Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, July 1st. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amita Sharma. First, bars and breweries. Now Governor Newsom takes aim at beaches in parts of the state. The new restrictions coming as COVID cases keep climbing statewide and here at home. The numbers released this afternoon, not good again. County officials reporting 7 more people have died from COVID-19 and 474 new cases. And while the governor is calling on some counties to get tougher, what about San Diego? Here's KPBS reporter John Carroll.
The governor began his news conference in a way that's unsurprising to anyone who's been following the COVID-19 situation in California.
The spread of this virus continues at a rate that is particularly concerning.
Concerning enough that he's dialing back some of the reopening that's taken place in 19 California counties. They include every Southern California county except for San Diego. Now, in Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, San Bernardino, Imperial, Riverside, and Santa Barbara counties, indoor operations at bars, restaurants, wineries and tasting rooms, movie theaters, family entertainment centers, zoos and museums, and card rooms will be stopped for at least the next 3 weeks. San Diego County moved to reclose bars here as of midnight last night. Concern over holiday weekend crowds led the governor to close all parking lots at state beaches. And even though we're not on the county watch list, it appears from this afternoon's county news conference that that's where we're headed.
We simply cannot continue with these growing trends.
Those growing trends are reflected in the metrics or triggers the county watches to see if we need to dial back. We're perilously close right now. I asked County Public Health Officer Dr. Wilma Wooten why the county isn't dialing back on its own, given our precarious numbers and the fact that every county surrounding or even near to us has already crossed that threshold.
These various businesses, as was stated yesterday, will need time to come to the realization that they will be closed. They need time to do that, but we anticipate by the weekend that we will be on that list as well.
The CEO of UC San Diego Health, Patty Mason, said at the news conference she's very, very concerned about our trajectory. She says after months of treating COVID patients, healthcare workers are worn out. She says if we want to show respect for them, we should all do what we know to do: wear facial coverings, wash hands frequently, and practice physical distancing. John Carroll, KPBS News.
Americans are searching for ways to make this 4th of July somewhat like the last. But health experts say that way of thinking may contribute to more outbreaks. New data shows just 2 states are seeing a drop in the number of coronavirus cases, prompting 19 states to pause or change reopening plans. In Arizona, bars, gyms, and other businesses are now closed amid a record number of daily cases. In New York City, plans to allow diners inside restaurants were scrapped. Florida beaches from Palm Beach to Key West are closed for the coming days. Colorado, Texas, and parts of Delaware have shut down bars.
We have literally 2 weeks, if that, to be able to change the trajectory we're on, or we're going to be set at a place that overwhelms our hospitals.
New research estimates the actual number of deaths from COVID-19 is up to 28% higher than the official tally. The study, led by a Yale epidemiologist, says in the early days the country didn't have enough test kits, and some states haven't compiled their death certificate data as promptly as others. More demonstrations today across San Diego County. This time, activists went right to the homes of several wealthy San Diegans. The protesters say the rich aren't paying their fair share amid the economic fallout from COVID-19. Here's KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler.
Who's ready to demand the rich to pay their fair share? Honk if you're ready, or clap if you're ready.
The car caravan was part of a statewide protest meant to draw attention to the disparate impacts that the coronavirus pandemic has had on low-income people and their wealthy counterparts. Union members representing AFSCME and the UAW specifically called out UC San Diego Chancellor Pradeep Khosla for laying off unionized staff members at a time when the coronavirus pandemic has stretched wallets thin.
We're seeing this all across the country. People are realizing that the rich keep getting richer, the poor keep getting poorer. During this pandemic, people are losing their jobs, their livelihoods, their income, yet we're seeing the billionaires in this country raking in tens of billions of dollars in profit while everybody else is suffering.
According to the groups, California's 161 billionaires have increased their wealth by more than $180 billion since the start of the pandemic in mid-March. Other actions across the state targeted Bay Area billionaire Elon Musk and Los Angeles investor Bruce Karsh. The protest was planned for July 1st because this is the day that rent is due. The around 50-car caravan visited the home of landlord Michael Contreras.
Right now, four people, 1 in 4 people in San Diego are unemployed. Right now, thousands of renters cannot pay their rent and are at risk of evictions. Today we are visiting neighborhoods of these billionaires throughout the state to say you need to pay so our communities can breathe.
The groups say California's wealthiest can afford to have their own tax burdens increased to help those most impacted by the coronavirus pandemic. The state government has had to cut back on social services and education funding to make up for the revenue deficit created by the economic downturn. Max Rivlin-Nadler, KPBS News.
African Americans are disproportionately represented in the county's foster system, and local leaders are working to fix that. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman was there as county officials pledged to make changes.
Here in San Diego, we stand for all of our children, and today marks a very important milestone in now making further progress in the lives of all children.
The County of San Diego is partnering with the People's Alliance for Justice, promising to address inequalities within the foster care system.
We need to get African American children and every other child back to their families. The goal of child welfare was never to keep children running in the cycle of instability, but it was always to rebuild stability.
Only about 5.5% of San Diegans identify as Black or African American, yet 20% of children in the foster system are Black.
Disproportionately represented.
Shane Harris, who leads the People's Alliance for Justice, was part of the foster care system himself. He says many African Americans are not placed with family members, disparities he's seen firsthand.
13 years in our county's child welfare system, 8 different placements, losing both of my parents. This is not a partisan issue for me. It was a painful issue.
The county is committing to hosting 3 town halls with the goal of recruiting volunteers and parents of color to become foster families.
There's about 3,000 children in foster care on any given day, and Promises to Kids in one way or another touches almost all of the kids in the system.
Promises to Kids CEO Tanya Tarosian says it's important for foster youth to have role models that look like them, and they are working to diversify.
Our case managers have to look and relate culturally, ethnically, and to our youth.
She says the community can help.
Nonprofits are grappling with the issue of how do we effectively address systematic challenges when it comes to system-wide racism or bias. And so any support that the community can provide in guiding us and joining with us to make sure that we can tear down these barriers is appreciated. This is something that we can't solve alone, but it's something that we have to solve as a community.
Tarosian says right now the pandemic is making it especially tough for foster youth who are aging out of the system.
What we're finding is because all of the schools have been shutting down, they're left without family support to pick up the pieces like a lot of other children may have.
Part of this new county partnership with the People's Alliance for Justice, officials are looking to diversify their own staff. The first community recruitment event will happen virtually in August. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
A federal judge has blocked a Trump administration rule that denies asylum to migrants if they've traveled through another country to reach the border. The judge says the administration violated procedures by not seeking public feedback first. However, new coronavirus restrictions on the border already largely bar migrants from entering the U.S. Thousands of sailors and officers have been held up while the Navy tries to cope with the coronavirus. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh talked to one of several military families caught mid-move.
You can smile.
Kelly Kopek is a military spouse. Her husband is a chief petty officer, first class in the Navy. They were just about to leave San Diego for Virginia when the Pentagon halted most travel due to the pandemic.
It was Monday the 16th. He went in and had a meeting with his chain of command, and they said, it's a stop movement. You're not going.
Like thousands of military families, they were stuck between duty stations. They had already sold their house.
Just like most families in this situation, they have to figure out what's going to work best for them. And yeah, we had to finish moving out of our house. We had to finish the sale. We had to make sure that we had a roof over our heads.
2 months earlier, they had just had a baby. They got creative and brought an RV. So now they're living in a mobile home park in El Cajon.
We eventually just made the best choice for our family, which was we need a furnished apartment. Let's get one on wheels. We had also lost the apartment that we had rented in Virginia, which was fully furnished for that temporary school. So now we just get to move in this and live in this.
The Navy estimates that roughly 42,000 sailors and their families are stuck mid-move, a backlog that may not be cleared away until early next year. The original stop movement order was set to expire this week. It's been replaced by a series of restrictions with no definite end date. California is one of 11 states where movement is still heavily restricted. As cases spike in several states, the Navy warns that more restrictions could be on the way. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
COVID-19 is adding a new layer to planning for wildfire season. San Diego County, CAL FIRE, and the Red Cross are working together to update how they serve evacuees. The Red Cross says 200 shelter locations have been identified, including hotels and motels in the event of an evacuation. People would go there instead of large traditional shelters. And a big concern this 4th of July weekend is, of course, illegal fireworks. Local law enforcement report a large spike in the number of calls from residents hearing or seeing illegal fireworks going off in neighborhoods. They say not only can they set off wildfires, but injure those using them, regardless of size. Even the popular little snap bangs or poppets that people give kids to throw.
They put them in their pockets and they forget about them, and all of a sudden if something hits them in the pocket, they all go off together and we have severe burns.
The increase in illegal use is being attributed to the lack of professional shows being planned. Patrols will be on high alert, so officials warn don't buy or set them off. Get out and hit the trails. In fact, you're being challenged to do so. Today's supervisors Jim Desmond and Kristen Gaspar announced the Tour of Our Trails Challenge, the idea to encourage residents to explore and try new trails. San Diego County is home to more than 370 miles of trails and over 130 parks.
There's never been a better time to explore some of our less trafficked gems. You can go by foot, you can go by bike, or even by horse here in San Diego.
There are a variety of trails for hikers, bikers, and equestrians of all levels. Completing all 5 parks preserves in a category earns a prize, and completing all 15 will earn competitors a special limited edition patch. Changes are coming to our forecast that will have it feeling a lot more like summer. Here's meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
As we take a look at our weather headlines, we are beginning to see a little bit of change out there. Beginning on Thursday, temperatures will slowly rise through the end of the week. Over the weekend, we could see more significant warming Sunday and into Monday. Temperatures will be well above average, and the marine layer becomes shallower, so that's better news for the beachers as we take you into the holiday weekend. As we take a look at conditions tonight, yes, we'll have the low clouds again. Oceanside down towards San Diego. Temperatures in the low to mid 60s. We'll be in the mid 50s for a low tonight in Ramona, mid 40s in Campo. And tonight's low, Borrego Springs, right around 70 degrees. As we take a look into Thursday, well, no significant change. Temperatures just creeping up a little bit on the coast and in the interior sections. And of course, we'll see the hundreds in the desert areas, but temperatures are not terribly hot. And as we look at our weather, we'll see clouds giving way to some sun in Oceanside and also around San Diego, low to mid 70s. We'll be in the low to mid 80s from Escondido to El Cajon. Borrego Springs, triple digits, and Mount Laguna is at a 74. How are we faring here for the end of the week and into the weekend? Well, it looks pretty tranquil. High pressure will be strengthening, but not in a position to push much moisture into our area. There may be a few cumulus clouds building up over the mountains at the end of the week, but we're not expecting any trouble. So as we take a look at our weather here, notice temperatures gradually rising, and then really warms up nicely Sunday into Monday. And as we look inland, we see the warming trend here. We'll be in the 90s on Sunday, so it's getting kind of hot. And as we head to the mountains, we'll see temperatures on the rise here, low 80s Sunday into Monday. And to the deserts, triple-digit heat. And then it gets pretty hot here from Sunday into Monday. And for KPBS News, I am meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg will meet with civil rights groups amid a growing advertiser boycott of the social media platform. Facebook has pledged to ban hateful ads and label controversial posts from politicians. But as Abby Phillip reports, civil rights groups say it's not enough.
The world's largest social media company now under unprecedented pressure from its advertisers to do more to stop hate speech online. Dozens of companies pausing advertising on Facebook in protest. The debate touching the highest office in the land, with Facebook coming under fire for leaving up these recent posts where President Trump appeared to threaten looters with shooting and spread false claims and misinformation about mail-in voting.
As we watch Donald Trump, I think, become more and more volatile with his post, the fact that these companies have sat on their hands and allowed it means that they are complicit.
Rashad Robinson of Color of Change, one of the civil rights groups that have organized the Stop Hate for Profit boycott, says for businesses, the choice is simple.
Do you want your ads showing up next to white nationalist organizations? Do you feel comfortable having your ads next to theirs while you're also putting on those same platforms messages about why Black Lives Matter?
Civil rights advocates are pushing Facebook to do more, including removing content and groups that promote hate and disinformation, allowing outside audits of its content and advertising policy, and giving advertisers refunds if their ads run alongside content that was removed because it violated the company's policies. With more than 98% of all of Facebook's revenue coming from advertising, the pressure on Facebook's bottom line is only growing.
Facebook, we have absolutely no incentive to tolerate hate speech. We don't like it, our users don't like it, advertisers understandably don't like it.
Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg, who's been criticized for appearing to be too close to President Trump in his campaign, saying publicly that the company will put in place new policies to flag, label, and even remove content that violates its rules, including from the president.
If we determine that content may lead to violence or deprive people of their right to vote, we're going to take that content down, no matter who says it. And similarly, there are no exceptions for politicians.
Activists say Facebook is acting out of fear, worried that President Trump will attempt to regulate social media companies he claims are targeting conservatives online.
At every turn, Mark Zuckerberg is worried about what Donald Trump will think.
That was Abby Phillip reporting. Last week, Facebook reached out to the NAACP, the Anti-Defamation League, and Color of Change. A Facebook spokesperson has confirmed that Zuckerberg will attend the meeting. New York City is defunding its police department in a big way. Over the past week, people have demonstrated outside City Hall, and overnight, the City Council passed a budget that reduces the NYPD budget by $1 billion. The cuts would eliminate 1,000 officers and reduce the overtime budget. New York's mayor says the money will instead go to help young people and communities in need. George Floyd's death at the hands of Minneapolis police prompted a wave of protests across the country and here in San Diego. But racism and police brutality have prompted outrage before. KPBS arts and culture reporter Beth Accomando looks to the legacy of the Black Panther movement of the 1960s to provide context for today's Black Lives Matter.
In the 1960s, the image of Black Panthers dressed in black leather jackets and berets made an impression on the teenage Henry Lee Wallace V.
They had muscle. They showed that they weren't scared of the police, and they educated us on the Second Amendment that we had the right to bear arms to protect ourselves.
The Panther Party and its platform appealed to young Black people.
We was tired of getting brutalized and disrespected in our community. My sister went to San Diego State College, which is now San Diego State University, and she was in the Black Student Union. She and her boyfriend, Kenny Denman, was approached by the Black Panther Party in '67 to open up a chapter of the Black Panther Party.
Wallace and his whole family joined.
I want people to realize that San Diego itself has never been the utopia that it claimed to be. There have always been racism in this city. The Black Panther Party, when it came out to fight the injustices of the system.
David F. Walker has been researching the Black Panthers for a graphic novel coming out next year. That iconic image of non-submissive Black men with guns came to define the movement, and it scared people.
Can be pretty terrifying to people, and deservedly so, because the people that were most afraid were the oppressors, the people that were in charge of maintaining the status quo.
But what scared then FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover even more were the programs the Panthers ran.
Hoover is very clear that the breakfast program is the thing that he hated the most. He says in some of these documents, in some of these memos, is like, if the Panthers succeed in winning the hearts and minds of the people, we've lost.
The Panthers wanted to teach self-reliance, and that was perceived as dangerous. In San Diego, Wallace says the chapter's programs came under attack of the government.
Because they didn't want us to help. So the Black Panther Party was trying to empower the community at the time, and the government, with our money, your money, used that to repress any progress that would happen in the ghettos of America.
Current protests give Wallace hope, but he sees them as the result of groundwork laid in the 1960s.
The seeds that was planted back in those days are fertilized now. They're turning into plants, beautiful flowers and stuff, because the stuff that the Black Panther Party tried to do back in those days was get all the people together and let them know that you're being exploited by the system.
The FBI worked to systematically destroy the Black Panther Party. Yet Wallace says progress was still made. But injustices still abound today, which is why he wants current protesters to continue to demand change.
We got to go all the way to the core of the issue and get rid of this disease like this coronavirus, get rid of the racism disease.
Wallace is now chairman of the reactivated San Diego Black Panther Party, and he has a message for the people.
The Black Panther Party stand with those that stand on the side of justice. But you got to understand that everybody need to come to the table. You can't sit up there and say, oh, those poor Black people, oh, they just brutalize them. Get off your ass and do something. Because if we work together, we're going to have a better society. Then you won't have to worry about people being killed in the street or people being discriminated against. America is land of the plenty, and the wealth should be shared. And I'm talking to you capitalists out there. Y'all need to be more proactive in returning things back to the community so we don't have this situation. Power to the people.
Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Record levels of COVID-19 cases are being reported across the U.S., bringing into question what is and isn't working. On the forefront, testing. Now, experts are considering a new approach. Britt Conway has more.
Pool testing. Many health experts say it's the necessary next step in testing and tracing COVID-19.
instead of taking an individual a nasal sample from somebody, you take a whole bunch of them and you put them together and you run a test on that whole batch. And then if it's negative, all those people are clear. But if it's positive, then you go back and individually test those samples to see who was positive.
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration issued recommendations for this testing strategy earlier this month, as companies and schools look to have mass screenings. Dr. Anthony Fauci says the White House Coronavirus Task Force is seriously considering this. Fauci told the Washington Post, "Something's not working. I mean, you can do all the diagramming you want, but something is not working. What you need to do is find the penetration of infected people in your society. And the only way you know that is by casting a broad net." Fellow task force member Dr. Deborah Birx agrees, saying pool testing is what is needed to get the testing numbers where they need to be. And she hopes this will eventually help people get back to their lives faster. For today's Health Minute, I'm Britt Conway.
Local blood donors will now be tested for COVID-19 antibodies. It's a process that could help those who are fighting the virus. The San Diego Blood Bank is urging people to make an appointment to donate blood. Those who do will be screened as potential convalescent plasma donors. It's important to note antibody tests do not screen for active infections or recent exposure. Here's another look at today's top stories. Governor Gavin Newsom announced the closure of indoor operations at various businesses in 19 counties, but San Diego is not among them. However, our county could be placed on the state's watch list by this weekend. If we remain on it for 3 days, we will be forced into closures. Today, the county reported 7 more deaths and 474 COVID-19 cases. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us and have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.